Well, the worst kept secret in the NFL has happened. Davante Adams is a New York Jet. None of us are surprised, but was it the best destination for him? I don't think so. Was he what the New York Jets needed? Peter, Will, do you think so? That is what they needed?
I think
Can
so.
he play O-line?
No.
Well, see, the reason why I think so is because he and Rodgers have always had chemistry. Like they've built a rapport all over these years, and for me, I think it all comes down to their chemistry. And the offense is largely an offense that he's used to. He knows the routes, he knows the playbook.
A lot of the verbiage is pretty much the same.
Exactly. So he's going in there and he's gonna fit in. Now the thing is, another way that you can make up for a bad O-line is having wide receivers that know how to get open very quickly. And Davante is deadly on the slant. He's deadly on the comeback. He's deadly on
Screen.
top start routes. So Rodgers gonna get the ball out of his hands very quickly in this new offense because he won't be able to hold on to it because he's got Davante, who's one of his security blankets he's always had with the Packers during their time together. So there's a reunion of all sorts. I mean, to be honest, I never felt that they should have broken up when Rodgers was the Packers, but hey, fate has brought them together. It seems that they're meant to be. So I expect the Jets offense to maybe start functioning better because Davante is still a top 5-7 wide receiver in the league.
So it did. So let's quickly talk about the game yesterday. It was yesterday at the time of this recording, just about. The Jets offense played better. Still lost, but they played better. And when you look at the actual stats, where Rodgers 294 yards, he did throw a pick pretty much at the end of the game, but that was not his fault. Actually, massively. And I've seen the breakdowns, and if anybody hasn't, go search it, Twitter, the breakdown. I think Emmanuel Archo did it, and it's brilliant in terms of he may have blasted the guy, he may have he mentioned it in the press conference because that is what Rodgers does. But when you look at the tape, it was correct because he needed to be on the red line, which is effectively 5 yards out from the numbers towards the sideline. And that was the kind of release that the Mike Williams receiver needed to have because Lazard was clearing the way with the cover 2 through the middle. Now, if you're both too close to each other and there's no spacing, you effectively allow that outside, the guy who's from the defensive side looking after the left side of the field in a cover 2, that allowed him to break on the ball because effectively the receiver's in the wrong place. And the ball was underthrown, but if the receiver was in the right place, he would have been able to put the ball in the right place on a better time schedule as well. So, yeah, I think as a result of that, Mike Williams is definitely getting thrown to the shadow realm. Because
I've got
he's got 3. And I'll give you, before you bring me those 2 takes, he's now got 3 receivers that he trusts. Right? He trusts. Yeah. He trusts Wilson because he threw to him 10 times yesterday, 8 for 107 yards and a touchdown. He trusts Alan Lazard. Half those yards yesterday came on the Hail Mary before the end of the first half. And now he's got Davante. Where does Mike Williams fit in all of that? He doesn't, unfortunately for him. So, Will.
Okay, well, before you go, quick one. Anyway, I'll say at the end. Go ahead, Will.
Well.
Yeah, no, I think I've got 2 takes on this. I generally think with the type of offense they're running, it's a little bit archaic. I don't know if Hackett's even necessarily calling the plays at this point.
No, he's not calling the plays anymore. He was demoted last week.
He's been demoted. But even before then, I think Rodgers was kind of the ring general there. Like he's at that point in his career and has mastery of the game where he can basically decide what plays are going based on the looks the defense gives him. That being said, especially for like an aging quarterback, you've got Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. We all know who
Brees had a game.
Brees Hall is. Amazing game. Through the air, 56 yards, but on the ground, 113. Braylon Allen coming out as well from college. Like he's played phenomenally, and I think on a lot of other teams, he'd probably be their starting back. So I think they need to try and lean more on this run game. The acquisition of Davante Adams, for me, this is basically like
that will help Brees actually.
It will help Brees, but I'm not really looking like that. I generally think
no. I wasn't. It's going to help Brees in the run game in the sense that because you're looking at the pass more.
Yep, you can't.
The holes are going to. They're not going to. You can't. You're not going to be able to stack the box as much. So
yeah, but I kind of look at the Davante Adams thing as like it has to work now offensively. Like if they do all this and they're still not winning, then that's a bad look for the team. Davante Adams for me is like you've got a Ferrari and it's just a new paint job. If the Ferrari wasn't winning to begin with, it's not really going to change a lot. Don't get me wrong, he does add that dynamic. They do have that rapport and that stuff really does matter. So like what you find with QBs is in the off season, you work out the timings, you work out like, how can I say, Aaron Rodgers right now he knows exactly where Davante Adams is going to be and how fast he's going to get there. So it's only going to help. Now he was building that up with Garrett Wilson, and I actually think it's going to be somewhat of a detriment to Garrett Wilson's development because
it's not going to be it's not going to be bad for his development. He's not going to get the same level of targets.
Yeah, opportunity. As a young receiver, that's what you want to do. Obviously, he's not really gonna rock the bus because I mean you've got potentially some would say 2 Hall of Famers. So he's not really gonna rock the bus there. But I know he's gonna suffer from his production standpoint because there's not enough of the football to go around, especially if they do start to run. And I honestly feel running the ball with an aging QB is one of the best things you can do.
Also, it'll help the defense stay off the field a little bit more. But they were efficient yesterday. Yeah. But actually, when you look at Brees Hall, 113 yards, 42 of which came on one run. So 17 for 70, which is...
Yeah, like if you look at
still a fair clip.
If you look at the numbers, like offensively, the Jets were better. Like they put up more numbers.
They were better than that. Yeah, they're better than they've been in the like previous week. I saw them play right.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions. They were terrible, utterly terrible. Mm-hmm. Couldn't move the ball, couldn't run the ball, couldn't do anything. This week they could run the ball. They just when they were inefficient because they left points out there. They missed field goals. Yes, both teams missed field goals, but they got down in the red zone and they didn't convert. They didn't convert their red zone opportunities into touchdowns. That's what they had missing in this game.
Yeah, I think going forward right now, this is pretty much the last ditch effort. I think the GM's made some moves to sort of say Hassan Reddick is most likely not going to happen, and they've given him permission to seek a trade. So right now, I think they've kind of closed the chapter on that, and they know, yeah, Hassan's not going to play. He saved up money for this, knowing that the contract year was here, and he's a very savvy player. So I don't think, don't get me wrong, he's going to miss out on a year of game checks, but I don't think that bothers him. I think he's generally like, yeah, I'm good. I want my value.
Well, he's going to make that money back twice. The reason why I say that is because Drew Rosenhaus is one of the experienced and nuanced agents in the game. That's his new agent. Yeah. And one thing we know about Drew, he'll get you your money.
He'll get you your money. So I think they've moved on from that. So that's really good. But it's more pressure on the team now. It's more pressure on Rodgers because your head coach is out. everyone is saying like we're going with you. You've got to take us to the promised land. I think like if they don't win now, it's gonna be pretty painful. Painful because they've literally done everything that a team could do.
We look at the schedule coming up. They've got the Steelers, the Patriots, Texans, Cardinals, Colts. Next 5 games.
They're all winnable.
That's true.
They're all winnable. The most difficult game being the Texans.
Yeah, being the Texans, but when I say they're all
and the
winnable,
Steelers.
because of their defense. But when I say they're winnable, I say that in the context of when Aaron Rodgers have a trusted wide receiver one that he goes to, he's pretty incredible. Because I'm looking at, when you look at Davante's prime years with Rodgers, right? They didn't really have a collection of wide receivers when Rodgers had them earlier in his career. Like he had Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, he had Randall Cobb, he had James Jones. So they were a collection whereby the ball gets spread around to each of them because they're good at getting open. But during the Tay Adams years, it was just him and the Tay Adams show. And he won 2 MVPs based off on having just Tay Adams.
And a running game.
Sense. And a running game. So for me, he needed Tay Adams. It's almost like they have this type of connection, and it'll be good for them to get back together again. And I believe it's gonna open things up for Aaron Rodgers. And contrary to, yes, Gary Williams will suffer in terms of his output numbers. He might not get the same. Gary Wilson, he might not have the same numbers as he's accustomed to getting, but he's gonna make the up of experience because Tay Adams is not gonna play like forever. So eventually Garrett will come into his own. But then also, what if this move is also for Tay to impact some sort of wisdom to Garrett? Because Tay could, mentor Garrett.
So there's only one thing, right? The Jets have acquired him, but at the end of the season, they can get if, say, for example, Rodgers decides to disappear off onto the sunset, they're not going to be lumped with Davante either because they can get out of that basically with no repercussions in terms of cap. So, yeah, trade is done. We all expected it to be done. Nobody's surprised by it. Some people are disappointed because we expected people expect Davante Adams because he hasn't got a ring, right? Maybe to try and go towards a team that can really push, right?
Like a true contender.
And the Jets at 2-4 aren't a true contender, right?
They're a playoff contender, I could say, because they could turn
at
it around. At
2-4.
Yes, I could.
Those games are winnable.
Actually, no. If you look at the rest of their schedule, oh boy, it's soft, right? Because you've got two games against two games against Miami, and you never know whether, although that's like from week 14 onwards, so you never know whether Tua's head's there or not. You got the Rams, who let's see what the injury status of them towards the end of the season, and you've got the Jags. You do have to play the Bills again, obviously. Seahawks. That's the other game after the bye. So, yeah, they can turn it around, but if they come up against defenses that are literally stopping the run, they're not going to be able to pass their way out of this. They're not going to be able to sling the rock and throw a stupid amount, because the moment they do that, the defense will be able to pin their ears back, go after Rodgers, and the protection isn't quite there from an offensive line perspective. So let's see how it goes. Let's see whether the trade actually works out in their favour.